Good morning, everyone. I'm delighted to welcome you to the launch of the COPE Galway Annual Report for 2022. I'd like to extend a particularly warm welcome to Dr Katriona O'Sullivan, prominent academic and author of bestselling memoir Poor, and our keynote speaker today. COPE Galway's Annual Report is a snapshot of the journey that we, our staff and volunteers, have gone on throughout the past year, alongside our clients, our funders, and our many supporters across the community. For the next 50 minutes or so, you'll get some insights into our work and impact. You'll hear about the numbers of people supported, some of the projects and initiatives undertaken, and some of the challenges that we have faced and continue to face. First, we're going to hear from COPE Galway's chairman, Pádraig Timon, and our CEO, Michael Smith. We'll have a brief presentation from each of our homeless, senior support, and domestic abuse services. We'll then hear from our keynote speaker, Dr Katriona O'Sullivan, and we'll finish by 12 o'clock with some closing remarks from our CEO. We welcome your feedback, so please do get in touch with us with any comments that you might have. Contact details will be on screen at the end of the launch. If you tweet, be sure to let people know that you're attending the launch today by using the hashtag COPE Galway Annual Report. I invite you to take the time to download and read our annual report, because this is where you'll find the stories of some of those whose lives have been positively impacted by COPE Galway this year. So thanks again for joining us. I'd like to introduce you now to Pádraig Timon, Chairman of COPE Galway.
Good morning. Thank you, Sharon. Good morning, everybody. Welcome and thank you for joining us for the online launch of COPE Galway Annual Report 2022. Again, I want to extend a particular COPE Galway welcome to our keynote speaker, Dr Katriona O'Sullivan, who is joining us from Dublin. Dr O'Sullivan is Senior Lecturer at the Department of Psychology at Maynooth University. She has developed policies around education and inclusion and has published research on equality, gender, education, inclusion and STEM. Katriona has a Galway connection, so we look forward to hearing from you later. The publication and launch of our annual report gives us opportunity to highlight the truly extensive range and widely felt impact of the work this charity achieves in the Galway community. It also affords us the opportunity to highlight issues that need to be addressed each and every year. These issues relate to how we support people in pursuing their rights and in pursuing a better quality of life. COPE Galway made a difference for an unbelievable 2,961 people in Galway last year. Almost 3,000 local citizens who have their own stories, skills, strengths, traumas and worries. They are members of our families, friendships and this community. As they navigated through very difficult periods in their lives, our team here in COPE, the professional and caring and committed people, supported them along the way. Today you will hear from some of our remarkable team, who despite the most trying of circumstances, consistently respond and adapt to meet people's needs. Our homeless service worked with 1,217 people, including 303 children, who were homeless or at risk of homelessness in 2022. Again, our people demonstrated creative thinking, professionalism and resilience in responding to a lack of available emergency accommodation during the winter months. They also found innovative ways to improve the long-term experience for families and individuals in emergency accommodation. In the face of constant emergencies and challenges, and an enduring recruitment and retention crisis, we are very proud that our dedicated homeless services team provided uninterrupted, person-centred, trauma-informed service throughout the year. Our senior support service team worked with 901 older people in our community, driving a vision of healthy, independent ageing at home. You will hear how this service has reached far impacts in all sections of our community: volunteering, employment opportunities, befriending and social inclusion programs, and innovative meal developments by our professional teams at Meal for Health Social Enterprise. The ethos of the senior support service is around ageing well, and our fantastic team are there to support older people along this journey. COPE Galway supported 843 women and their children who are experiencing domestic abuse in 2022, an increase of 21% on 2021. Notable this year was the team recorded 3,874 crisis support calls. That's 10 every single day. An indication of both the extent of and perhaps the intolerance towards this insidious abuse. You will shortly hear about the impact of our team's preventative and early engagement initiatives across their refuge, outreach, children and young people services, and within our schools and communities. An energetic and skilled team of volunteers make up our board of directors. We are committed to the highest standards of governance, transparency, and accountability. Our 2022 annual report is structured to reflect those standards within our 6 strategic priorities and with a special emphasis on prevention and early engagement. Reflecting COPE Galway's values, our people, our staff and volunteers are at the heart of everything we do. It is fair to say that each of us on the board are astounded by the depth and breadth of the responsive and preventative work achieved every single day. When you observe their commitment and dedication and what they accomplish, often under very challenging circumstances, it is truly inspiring. Here I'd like to take a moment to thank Eileen, Ray, Carmel, Francis, Amy, Jackie, Louise and Billy for courageously sharing their deeply personal stories with us for this report. While difficult, they share their stories and perspectives to inspire us and others to take the first step towards available support. These stories of resilience, empowerment and strength are at the heart of the work we do. I invite you to please take some time after this to really absorb the impact of their experiences, which again they've so kindly shared with us. Finally, and on behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to thank everyone who supported COPE Galway in 2022. It is thanks to the enormous effort of our staff, our volunteers, clients, partner agencies, our funders, donors, the media, and the fantastic Galway public that we are able to do the work we do. Míle buíochas. I would now like to introduce Michael Smith, our Chief Executive.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much, Pádraig. I want to take this opportunity to thank you and your fellow directors of COPE Galway for your contributions. Your collective efforts are really appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great pleasure to welcome you all here this morning to the launch of our 2022 annual report. You will hear of the important work of our people, our staff, volunteers, and our supporters, who through their immense commitment and hard work move us ever closer to our vision, a community where every person is valued, cared for, and supported at every stage of life. You heard Pádraig speak just now about the numbers of people supported through COPE Galway's 3 services in 2022. 2,961 people. These numbers give a sense of the extent of our services, the reach of it into the community, but this is just one part of our story. Because behind every number lies a person, a child, teenager, a woman or a man, each with their own stories, their own hopes and dreams. I invite you to read our annual report to learn about our impact, not just in terms of the numbers, but in terms of the difference we make to the lives of the people we work with. The ways in which we reach into the community, work within the community, to respond to the challenges together, the responsiveness and commitment of our people, and the resilience of our clients, how we find the positives in everything we can, and encourage those we work with to do the same. We do this understanding that it can be an almost insurmountable challenge for people without homes, for those living in fear, and for those feeling isolated. We have now reached the halfway point in our 5-year strategic plan. The challenges of 2020 and 2021 remained, from dealing with the effects of the pandemic and spiralling costs of living to a national homelessness epidemic, high levels of domestic abuse, and an unhelpful narrative depicting older people as frail and at risk. All while the global recruitment and retention crisis meant our teams were being asked to do more with less. While these challenges affected some of our strategic timelines, the organisation progressed and achieved our objectives thanks to the dedication of our people throughout the year. For example, in 2022, we successfully completed phase 1 of our 3-year plan to roll out trauma-informed practice across our entire organisation. By year end, every single staff member had been offered training, and 120 team members had completed these core training modules. Sinead Carey, our trauma-informed practice lead and our head of homeless services, will talk to you a little bit more about this shortly. As you can hear, our team of 373 employees and volunteers are our greatest asset. Our team showed commitment above and beyond through crisis after crisis, staff shortages, and increasing demands for our services. Our people are determined and innovative, always holding the client at the centre of everything we do. Their commitment to our work is what makes it possible for us to continue to deliver these essential services and support those in our community who need it most. For this, I thank them sincerely. Our annual report outlines many examples of innovation, collaborative thinking, collaborative projects. Projects such as our homework clubs, developed in response to the immediate needs of children who are homeless and living for extended periods of time in emergency accommodation. Projects focus on prevention and early engagement also, such as our schools programme on healthy and unhealthy relationships, designed to reach young people at an early age to address the societal issue of domestic abuse. Our annual budget in 2022 was almost €11 million. This excludes private emergency accommodation and capital development projects. 48% of this funding is used in the delivery of homeless services, 20% in the delivery of domestic abuse services, and 12% in senior support services. The cost of fundraising, marketing, and the COPE Galway shop equates to about 9%, and our total cost of administration for the entire organisation, 12%. 74% of our funding comes from our three state funders, the HSE, TUSLA, and our local authorities, and the remaining 26% comes from a combination of fundraising and donations, grants, earned income, and service charges. We rely on the goodwill and generosity of the people of Galway, and in 2022, the Galway community and our philanthropic supporters helped us to raise in excess of €1.6 million. We thank you for this support. We simply couldn't continue to do our work without you. I want to focus for a few moments on the wider challenges facing COPE Galway and indeed the community and voluntary sector. In 2009, our sector accepted funding cuts, our part in a national effort to balance the books. These funding cuts have still not been restored, resulting in our staff being paid between 10 and 19% less in comparison to their public sector counterparts. We also continue to operate in increasingly unsustainable environments, with year-on-year precarious funding, and where our staff continue to be asked to do more as demand for services rise. As a society, we responded to the pandemic by prioritising the health and well-being of our citizens. Our sector plays a central role in enabling this response. We were in place, trusted, and sufficiently agile enough to deliver these services on behalf of government. For a brief period, this national response shone a light on our sector and encouraged all of us to ask the question about what we value most: safety, family, community, time spent with loved ones. Our funding model is not right in the community voluntary sector. It's not right that we must depend on charity and philanthropy for us to cover 26% of our costs to deliver these essential services, supporting basic human needs to the people of Ireland. It's not acceptable and it's not sustainable. We need to move to a rights-based approach where basic human needs are recognised as fundamental to everyone. COPE Galway is advocating for this. The right to a home, protection from violence, the right to equity in realising one's potential. In our most difficult hours over the past 3 years, this is what we valued most. I'm urging government to step up and put basic human needs at the centre of what's important. I'm now going to introduce you to COPE Galway services. First, we'll hear from Sinead Carey, our Head of Homeless Services. Then we'll have a short video showing the work of our Senior Support Service, before hearing from Gillian McNamee, Head of Domestic Abuse Services. Sinead, over to you.
Thank you, Michael. Hello, I'm Sinead Carey, Head of COPE Galway's Homeless Services, speaking today on behalf of our team. In 2022, in a worsening crisis, COPE Galway's homeless services continue to be responsive to the needs of the local community, supporting 1,217 people experiencing homelessness in Galway. Each one of these 1,217 people represents a unique person with their own story, life experiences, challenges and traumas, hopes and dreams, strengths and skills, and families and friends. Stories like those so generously shared in the annual report by Eileen. Eileen speaks of her experience of becoming homeless while in an abusive relationship and experiencing drug dependence, and of her experience moving from supported temporary accommodation at Austerley Lodge to community-based housing supported by COPE Galway's CBH Plus team. This service fostered independence, providing people with an alternative to hostels and a chance to reintegrate into the community. Eileen's relationship with her key worker, Paula, was of huge importance to her. She highlights how her work with Paula reinforced her power and strengthened her resolve to make and sustain positive changes in her life. Eileen's work with Paula was underpinned by the principles of trauma-informed practice, including safety, voice, choice, and collaboration. Trauma-informed practice is an approach that was embraced across our homeless services throughout 2022 and built upon, with every team participating in trauma-informed practice training by year end. This project is highlighted in the annual report. Eileen's story is one of hope. In her words, "I see a better future now. I see there is a better life out there." The CBH Plus service was added to our suite of services as part of a winter collaboration to respond to the increasing need for services during the high-risk cold weather months. Adapting support models developed by our resettlement service, CBH Plus worked closely with our day centre service, Fairgreen Hostel and Austerley Lodge. That all services pulled together in this way was key to remaining a responsive service, especially in times of extreme weather and staff shortages, when our colleagues across COPE Galway worked with us to ensure that those who needed us most received a service. As Michael highlighted, remaining operational during the current crisis in staffing in Section 39 organisations was our single biggest challenge in 2022. Our homeless services team displayed incredible resilience and professionalism and remained client-focused during exceptional challenges in staffing. Without their hard work, skills and expertise, dedication and perseverance, our services would simply not have remained open. However, the extra mile cannot continue to be expected of our people 7 days a week, 365 days a year, 24/7. Crisis must be an exception rather than an everyday. This threat to our services is not sustainable on an ongoing basis. In 2022, COPE Galway's homeless services worked with 136 families. In the annual report, Amy, our families team leader, shares her experience of working with families experiencing homelessness. She writes, "When I first joined this team, it became clear to me that each family's story is unique and that being homeless was only one part of a much larger picture in people's lives. I felt this was important to be aware of, as people experiencing homelessness often become stereotyped and viewed negatively within society. As someone working directly with people availing of our homeless services, you learn the complex factors involved for a family or an individual who reaches the point of having to declare themselves as homeless and the impact this has on them. Of concern to our team is the number of children who availed of our services in 2022, 303. To experience homelessness during the precious formative years of childhood has potential far-reaching impact for a person. Research shows that childhood homelessness can lead to poorer outcomes in physical and mental health, in education, and in reaching developmental milestones. 2022 saw the further development of our Helping Kids First programme, focused on improving the experience of children in our homeless services. Through this programme, individualised care and support plans were developed for each child. Homework clubs and summer camps were organised to give our children their best chance to thrive. This early engagement preventative programme was made possible through public donations and the input of volunteers. I would like to say a huge thank you to our staff, volunteers, partner agencies, funders and supporters, the local Galway community, and above all to the people who we are privileged to continue to serve. And now I would like to introduce a video on our senior support services with Jackie Linsky and her team.
I'm Jackie Linsky, Head of COPE Galway's Senior Support Service. Our service promotes healthy, independent ageing at home and reaches out to our older members of our community, offering two broad service areas. Our community support programme promotes a positive ageing journey and experience. We offer a range of communal activities, social activities, one-to-one support services to help people access benefits and entitlements. And we offer a befriending service for people who might feel a little bit more isolated in their homes and communities. Our most recent facility is our bungalow in Merview, which offers a range of activities and social supports, reaching out to the older members of the community in Merview and the surrounding areas. So meet Karen, who's going to tell you a little bit about the bungalow.
My name is Karen. I am a community support worker in the senior supports. I'm running the bungalow currently, where we organise activities for older adults. So we do lunch clubs, we do tea and coffee mornings, we do chair yoga, we do exercise classes, technology classes and some art classes. So today we're having the community barbecue. So we just said we got our garden done up thanks to a company called The Knot and Medtronic, and we just said we'd make the most of having a summer party here to, you know, really bring the community together and show people what's on offer here in the bungalow.
The other part of our service is our Meals for Health social enterprise, where our mantra is eat well, live well and age well. And now you're going to meet Geraldine Ryan, who's the executive chef of Meals for Health.
In 2022, we developed a pilot project with Tala Hospital's renal department. Meals for Health chefs understand the dietary challenges faced by people living with chronic illnesses, and we're here to make a difference. Over a period of 8 months, 20 dialysis patients were provided with a weekly delivery of fresh, kidney-friendly meals. Together, we are supporting people to maintain their nutritional status and enhancing their quality of life, one delicious meal at a time.
While we mainly provide services and supports, we do actively promote positive, healthy and active ageing, and we work to address ageism in our society. And as it so happens, this week is Positive Ageing Week all around the globe. And we use this opportunity every year to promote the many active, vibrant, healthy and really engaged older people who contribute so much to our communities, our families and our neighbourhoods. So I'm going to leave you with a short video featuring some of the amazing people who feature in Galway City's Positive Ageing exhibition this year, and you're going to thoroughly enjoy this. Thank you.
Good morning all. I am Gillian McNamee, and it is with great pride that I speak to you today as the Head of Domestic Abuse Services for COPE Galway, just short of my 12-month anniversary in this role. I especially want to thank anybody who has joined today's launch who has failed of or has been impacted by the work of our Domestic Abuse Service, and I want to thank you for trusting us to support you on your journey. You are truly incredible. Throughout 2022, our Domestic Abuse Services team has worked tirelessly to provide support, safety and advocacy to those affected by domestic abuse. This has been achieved through our wraparound support services consisting of a refuge team, outreach team, Sulasog, which is our children and young people team, court accompaniment, 24-hour confidential telephone support, many hours of internal and external trainings, and multi-agency awareness campaigns. I want to share with you some of our statistics highlighted within our annual report that demonstrate our dedication to supporting women and children affected by domestic abuse. COPE Galway Domestic Abuse Services supported 843 women, including 226 children, ensuring they receive the care and attention they need to heal and thrive in the face of adversity. Our refuge was utilised 130 times by women seeking safety and support along with their 169 children. Our outreach team have been instrumental in reaching individuals who may not have otherwise accessed our services. We are very proud to report that we have facilitated 1,312 outreach appointments across Galway City and County. Our Sulis Oak team provided 226 therapeutic-based support sessions to children and young people, recognising and validating the unique needs of this cohort affected by domestic abuse. Aligned with the government's zero tolerance prevention pillar and generously funded through philanthropy, the team has conducted a pilot schools programme for young people in schools, exploring healthy and unhealthy relationships while challenging society's attitudes and perceptions of gender and inequality. The enthusiasm from the young people has been absolutely outstanding, and we are very excited to co-produce other meaningful programmes within young people within Galway City. Another branch of a person's journey through domestic abuse is to navigate the legal system, and this can be overwhelming for survivors. Our team has been by their side, providing comfort and guidance during 260 court accompaniments. This work has also been enriched by the tremendous work of our Legal Development Officer, who expertly researched the current legal system to identify the strengths and gaps to work towards providing the best possible support for those going through the justice system as a result of domestic abuse. This work has been made possible by the funding of the Department of Justice. Our team responded to 3,874 calls. This figure is representative of all those that had the courage to reach out to us because they recognise that what is happening to them and to those that they love is not okay. These statistics only begin to capture the depth of our commitment to our community. But what truly sets our domestic abuse service apart is the unwavering dedication to a trauma-informed approach. We understand that healing and recovery are not linear processes, and that trauma has lasting effects. Our entire team has undergone specialised trauma-informed training to ensure that every interaction is sensitive, compassionate, and focused on empowering women to reclaim their lives. In 2022, 12 women in Ireland died because of violence, and this included Aisling Murphy, whose trial finally commenced in the CCJ on Monday this week. We know that 1 in 4 women in Ireland are subjected to domestic abuse. These are real women and children whose lives have been destroyed by male violence. However, each one of the 843 women who engaged in our services, along with each one of the 3,874 individuals who picked up the phone to us, are taking a step out of the shadow and choosing a different path for themselves and their families. As we look forward, we will continue to provide agile, trauma-informed services, advocating for policy changes, and to collaborate with other agencies to eradicate violence against women, together taking a stand to strive towards zero tolerance of domestic violence. In the words of the Australian Army Lieutenant General David Morrison in response to accusations of sexual harassment, the standard you walk past is the standard that you accept. Thank you all for listening. I would now like to introduce a short video with highlights of some of COPE Galway's work in 2022 across our homeless, domestic abuse and senior support services.
In 2022, COPE Galway embarked on an ambitious 3-year plan to become a trauma-informed organisation. By year end, we had offered training to all of our staff across all roles and departments, and 120 people had engaged in this training. Trauma-informed practice recognises that we all as human beings will have experienced trauma in our lives, and that the vulnerable populations that we work with at COPE Galway will likely have experienced it at a higher rate than the general population. Trauma-informed practice is a cultural shift that we are extremely proud to be part of in order to create psychologically safe environments for our clients, our staff, and our volunteers.
Thank you very much. What a wonderful video showing the breadth and impact of our work and some of the key achievements of 2022. And now, without further ado, I have the great pleasure of introducing you to our keynote speaker, Dr. Katriona O'Sullivan. In admiring Katrina's work, I must admit, I often had to take a moment while reading her incredibly powerful, raw, and honest memoir, Poor. Katrina's book chronicles her journey from poverty, teenage pregnancy, and homelessness to graduating with a PhD from Trinity College Dublin and becoming an award-winning lecturer. What unites Katrina's story with those of the people that we work with in COPE Galway is an inherent resilience, strength, and ability to endure difficult situations, something our frontline workers witnessed amongst our service users every single day. We're looking forward to hearing from you today, Katrina. You're very welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Can you all hear me?
We can hear you okay, yeah.
Yeah, great. So, wow, what a wonderful start to the day to hear about all the wonderful work that COPE Galway are doing. And thank you so much for inviting me to share my story with you. Hopefully it will help, I suppose, encourage you to keep doing what you're doing, but anybody who's listening who may be struggling or have difficulty, maybe they might feel a bit inspired or just heard. So as you said, it's so weird to hear myself be described by other people in such successful terms. I never, ever expected to be in this position. And I often say my dreams were actually limited by poverty. So the best I could hope for myself as a young girl and as a young woman was to maybe be a hairdresser or a beautician or, you know, at best just to have security in terms of home and social welfare. So to hear somebody describe me as an award-winning academic, it still feels a little bit unreal. And I wonder, is someone going to come and kick me out? That hasn't happened yet. So just to tell you a little bit about my story, and I do write about it in my book, but I grew up in a really poor community, and my first memories in life were of my two parents being heroin addicts. And as you can imagine, when addiction dominates a household, especially when it's the mum and the dad, there is significant loss in childhood. And in my childhood, for example, I mean, it literally, I didn't eat on some days. There was no food in the house. There was rarely hugs. And there definitely wasn't, I suppose, support in terms of education and just life lessons. And when you grow up poor, what often happens with poor people is we're corralled into the same community. So all of the people that I knew were poor in some way or another. Some of them were what I call rich poor, and some of them were poor poor. The rich poor were those who were kind of working in shitty job, excuse my language. And the poor were those of us who are on social welfare and were committing crime and visiting family members in prison. And when you grow up in a community where everybody is the same, it's very hard to see a different life for yourself. But poverty, homelessness, all those things, they actually make children and women particularly very vulnerable to trauma. And as a young child, I was no different to other little girls like myself, and I experienced significant trauma in lots of ways, be it physical, sexual, and emotional. And when you experience trauma, whether it be as an adult or as a young person, you relate to the world in a completely different way to somebody who doesn't have trauma. You're suspicious. I describe it as being, I call it being wide, actually. I think of it a bit as a superpower now, but as a young child, I didn't really trust anybody and was very aware of the world. So I was very filtered I was fear focused, and going to school and being a little child in school, having that trauma, carrying it around with me, it didn't match with the requirements of education, which was to sit down and behave yourself for 6 hours a day and learn your ABCs like everybody else. And so the stuff that was going on at home actually impacted on my ability to participate in education. And so I was the naughty kid. I was the kid that told everybody to piss off and ran out as quickly as possible. And I was really, really lucky. I was really, really lucky that actually my first experience in education was with a teacher who actually understood trauma. In the same way, I think the staff in COPE have been trained with trauma. This teacher inherently knew how to manage a child who had experienced trauma. And she knew that in two ways. I'm just going to describe the ways in which she helped me. Her name was Miss Arkinson. And my first day of school, she said to me, "Oh, Katriona, I love a little Irish girl," because we're an Irish family in the UK, and I was a bit suspicious because she looked like them people that you don't really trust. However, I was kind of warm to the fact that she said my name correctly. Firstly, because they all called me Katriona over there, and secondly, she was warm. But a few things that she did that were really pivotal and changed my life was, the first thing was she always believed that I could achieve. She always believed that I could achieve, irrespective of whether I did or I didn't achieve. And I think that's so important when we're dealing with people who've experienced trauma. So an example of this would be, she would ask me to go and do jobs for her. I hated the jobs. So she'd say, "Katriona, will you go and take this message to Miss Hall down the road or down the landing?" And most times I'd just run out and end up being found in the playgrounds, and I wouldn't have done the job. But she never stopped asking me to do the job, because she believed in my potential. She knew that I had it within me to achieve this thing. There were blocks in the way. And that consistency actually provided me with security. And I've learned as an adult that, like, in my life, our parents' job is generally to light us up. So like a little dark space inside of ourselves when we're born. And our parents, if they're consistent and good, they provide a light in that dark space. I didn't have that. And actually this woman, Miss Arkinson, with her consistency and the care that she provided me, she actually provided me with the first light that actually has guided me throughout my whole life. There were times where I was really struggling as a young child, and I'd lie in my bed and think, Miss Arkinson thinks I'm great. And so having someone in services or in education or anywhere in your life when you're struggling, especially in disadvantage or poverty, who believes in you, is fundamental to change and fundamental to survival. The other way that she helped me was she taught me how to wash myself. So we were so poor that I wet the bed every night and didn't have clean clothes. And this one particular day, the assistants, the SNA, now I know they're called, but the teacher's assistant, we called them then, they were talking to each other across the room, and I knew something was wrong. It was about me, because I had that trauma response. I could sense when bad stuff was going to happen. And they called me into the little bathroom, and this teacher, she knelt down in front of me and looked me in the eye and said, "You haven't done anything wrong." And even though I felt ashamed, because I knew that she was trying to help me, and she could see that I was unkempt, I wasn't clean. I still felt ashamed, but she said to me, Katriona, I'm going to help you wash yourself. I'm going to show you how to wash yourself. So she provided me with a fresh towel, and she had 5 pairs of underwear, and they had Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday written on them. And she showed me how to wash myself. It was the first person actually that actually provided me with the capability to kind of look after myself. And so every morning I went to school. We never really spoke about it again. And there was a bag on the table, and I'd go over and I'd get the bag and I'd go into the bathroom, and I'd wash myself. Now, these are the extremities of how people can deal with someone who's living in trauma, experienced trauma. But the underpinning thing is exactly the same: meeting someone where they're at, looking them in the eye, not shaming them, not judging them, and having expectations for them, even when they don't have expectations for themselves, is really fundamental to providing a good service. And I feel so lucky to be speaking today at the launch of COPE's report, because I know that this is the work that you are providing to young women who are the same as me. And it's so essential that we support these services and celebrate them and provide them more consistently across Galway, but across everywhere else. As was mentioned, my parents actually lived in Ballinasloe in Galway for years, and so I was always down in Galway. So I have a special place in my heart for the West, despite the fact that it rains all the time in the West. I mean, you can't live in Ireland anyway if you don't like rain. The second thing that I just wanted to talk about in terms of the report and what it highlights in the services is the homelessness supports that are offered. So I was particularly struck by Eileen's story. So as a child, like, education was difficult. And while there were so many people invested in me, at 15, I found myself pregnant and homeless. And I was put into it's a mother and baby hostel. It was a hostel for young girls who were pregnant. And I was so lucky to be placed in the service that I was placed in. Like the services that COPE Galway offer, I had a key worker. I had actually a person who was, there to work with me, to try to help me and support me to become to be moved into secure housing. But also she was there to try to find, to meet me where I was at and understand what I wanted to do in my life. So, like, I used to be in this little room on my own with my little baby, 16 years of age, no education, no hope, no opportunity, very lonely. And there was this lovely, lovely woman who used to sit downstairs in the office. Now, I wouldn't always use the woman because I was a little bit suspicious and I had the trauma, but the fact that she was always there, and every time I went to her, she was consistently kind. She had my back. She didn't judge me. That was so important. She didn't hold me accountable either, which I know that sounds terrible for people that don't understand trauma or poverty, but sometimes I failed. Sometimes we're not able to do the things that we really wanted to do. Like, as a young woman, I really wanted to be good. I really wanted to go to school. I really wanted to pay my bills. I really didn't want to be with that fella who mistreated me. But there's other things when you've been through the life that I've been through that drive your behavior. And having a human being, somebody to work with who completely gets that and doesn't judge you for that, is game changing. Because I knew that this woman, I could go back to her and say, oh, I'm after messing up again. I'm after messing up again. And she wouldn't make me feel like I should be ashamed of myself. And unfortunately, a lot of the supports and systems that are out there don't understand. I've many a story of guards, policemen, social workers who didn't get trauma and tried to hold me accountable or talk to me like I was failing all the time. And that conversation actually goes into your psyche, and it's something that you relive. So I'm really, really delighted to see the breadth of work that COPE Galway are doing. And I'd really like to echo the words of Michael. Like, the services which serve and save lives like mine should not be dependent on philanthropy. We have a surplus of money in the state. Currently, I think it's 10 billion we have, a surplus of money. And yet services like COPE Galway and others that are doing amazing work to empower women like me to thrive and demonstrate their excellence are underfunded and are dependent on the goodwill of good people to keep raising money. If we invest in supports and services for people like me, or for women like Eileen, or for the older adults who are lonely and struggling, we actually provide them with an opportunity to participate fully in life. I am so privileged that I am able now, because of the supports like COPE Galway offered, I am able now to contribute fully to life. My dreams are endless at this point, because I received services and systems and approach that was person-centered and trauma-informed. And I really like to just thank COPE Galway for all that they do, and encourage anybody who has the power of the purse, who is out there looking ahead of the budget, to think about women like me and what we deserve. I know there's men out there. I'm always for the women though, because I definitely think that, you know, when you empower a woman, you actually change her whole life, her whole family. So I just really like to thank all of the staff, all of the supporters of COPE Galway for doing what you do. It actually matters. Sometimes you will never see the impact that you have. There are teachers who invested in me who, if they'd have looked at my outcome within a year of that time, they would have thought they failed. But I promise you, the investment that you put into the people that you work with, it lives on forever. In them dark moments when you're lying alone somewhere and you think that life isn't worth it, I can recall Miss Arkinson, Mr. Pickering, those people like you guys who are investing, who actually believed, that lives on forever. So please keep the good work up, and thank you so much for inviting me to talk about my story and my journey today.
Thank you so much, Katriona. Wow. I remember reading your book and being struck about the immense levels of pride it filled me with, knowing that our staff always try and be Miss Arkinson or Mr. Pickering. They are always striving to believe in our clients, endeavouring to ensure that they have that light inside them, and that in their darkest hours that we are there as a support to empower them after their own hopes and dreams. Thank you for that today. Just a few thank yous before we finished up. I want to thank you all for joining us today. Thanks to our clients and the people who have bravely shared their stories for their inclusion in our annual report. Thank you to all who are part of delivering COPE Galway's strategy, especially our staff, our volunteers and our board of directors. Thanks to all our local partners, community, voluntary and statutory. Thanks to our marketing and communications team, Colette especially, for producing our annual report, with the help of everybody else who contributed, and Sharon and her phenomenal team for delivering this online launch. Tásúil agam go mbuinfí soltas an tuairceáil bliantúil seo, agus go raibh míle maith go bhfasachta taca go dtí seo. Thank you all. Thank you, Katriona.
Thank you.